Hello there, Commonwealth from here. Moves and counter-moves. That is what weapons are for against the returning and potential enemies we'll confront throughout Tears of the Kingdom. With the power of souls becoming more and more evident, it is time to cover just that. The many new weapons we'll have at our disposal after Breath of the Wild brought a bigger arsenal to the table than any prior Zelda game. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell, aim 3000 likes, and let's get inside Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's new weapons now that we are less than 6 months away from the release. To get the cat out of the bag, at least one weapon class is likely gone in Hyrule of the continued hero's path, namely the high-tech ancient Sheikah weaponry which ranged greatly. And of course it ranged from basic items that were resistant to lightning such as axes, bows, spears and swords, to far more creative ones like the ancient blade sword, which we will miss following the Chainsaw Man premiere if the ancient Sheikah weapon class has been gone with the winds. The greatest shame is that we will then not see ancient Sheikah beam guns as it was envisioned by Leah Lania as the ancient gun, 3D modeled and all, and even with concept arts. It looks and feels awesome and as close to real as it can get, but I'm not sure if we will ever see it in a game. For one, it is in a class of weapons that is most likely to be replaced, and secondly, would a gun ruin the fantasy setting of Zelda? That is the big question here. Then again, we ended Breath of the Wild's final DLC with the Master Cycle Zero, a super futuristic vehicle, so who knows. Though we have to keep in mind that Breath of the Wild had a more mechanical and technical approach, while Tears of the Kingdom seems far more organic in every way. Which brings us over to the weapon class which is most likely replacing the ancient Sheikah energy weapons, the spiritual weapons of the Zonai. One of them is already known though combined with an existing weapon, the dragon flamethrower used on the ground in this one scene back at E3 2021. In fact, this is the only new likely breakable weapon that we have seen thus far that is not in an established weapon category. You know, sword, spear, bow, and so on. The closest we came to flamethrowers in Breath of the Wild was the flame rod, but that one spread out. This one is more direct, allowing to target one specific enemy at a time. In this case, Abomination from literal hell. And this right here is just the first tease of a number of weapons that might greatly differ from the ones we already know since 2017. Since the Zonai appear to be different from the 7 other tribes of Hyrule, mastering dark sorcery to counter the darkness, and that is the key hint to what we can expect from the weapons of the dragons. Your typical sword, bow and shield, but also untraditional inclusions that will be far more exciting for all of us. And among them, who knows, there might be a spiritual gun, unless that is not compatible with the 12 rating in Europe, or more specifically, the E+10 rating that Breath of the Wild had in America. But the theme of stone is heavy with the Zonai, as we have also seen with the shield. Not technically a weapon, but with the combination options found in the game with weapons, it could easily become one. We really need to open our eyes to the possibilities that combinations will grant us when it comes to our gear and weapons in the 20th Zelda game, since reusing the world has a deeper meaning than we first envisioned, as it applies to almost everything that Link could hold in his hands in Breath of the Wild. In other words, think of weapons in Tears of the Kingdom much like cooking in Breath of the Wild, where we combine different ingredients to end up with a specific dish. A very organic approach that goes in line with the themes seen in the 2023 Zelda game, multi-layered, dual in nature, and combined. Case in point, the Master Sword. Broken, but then restored with a different force which in itself turns the Master Sword into a brand new weapon. One that will likely behave differently when we are first able to use it again, as reforging it into something else will no doubt be a process and a quest in itself. And the big question is if we'll be able to do the same with more weapons that were present in Breath of the Wild and are returning in Tears of the Kingdom. Or where we will simply see them altered, much like in the case of the bokoblins and moblins we've seen thus far. Both are clear options that could work in-game, though the latter makes things far easier for the development team as you just alter existing weapons and sell them as if they are new. Well, no one is falling for that, except for new Lionel gear, which is an absolute must for the A-class grade of weapons that they have been dropping since 2017. The weapon system in Breath of the Wild was a masterpiece outside of them breaking too soon, but my main concern with the sequel is how to strike the right balance across the 3 playable layers. In Breath of the Wild, the ancient weapons could only be found on the ground in Sheikah shrines or purchased from Robbie's lab in Akkala. Hence it wouldn't surprise me if certain weapons will be found exclusively underground in caves like the Dragonhead Flamethrower, while others like the shield seen in the sky scenes are well tied to the sky. After all, one of the key goals in a sequel reusing the same world and expanding from it is to force exploration, but also re-exploration. But how does one do that? By providing cool stuff of rewards that makes the time you put into the game worth it. Finding new weapons and gear was one of the greatest incentives of getting us into each corner of this world, plus the shrines underneath. Recreating this magic in Tears of the Kingdom is an even bigger challenge, as Surface Hyrule has been more than covered by us in the last 6 years, so naturally we'll be more drawn to what is new in the sky and underground caves. The way to make what is already there worth re-exploring will thus be new weapons. And my point is that the new toys should be distributed equally across the different sections of the game we play. Each layer should have new weapons added, but at the same time also have some exclusivity tied to them. That is how you get players to fully explore every nook and cranny of the game. Each of them which will require us to use our base and unbreakable weapon, our new spiritual arm to at the very least time reverse objects back from where they arrived. With that being said, there are still weapons that can be easily added, and this time at least some of them should be unbreakable or at the very least regenerate after a while, just like the Master Sword did in Breath of the Wild. The latter portion should be tied to long missed items and weapons that were unbreakable in Zelda's past. Or more specifically items that serve both for traversal, solving puzzles, and also as weapons to take out opponents. You know, the classic hookshot from A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, which also introduced the long shot, Majora's Mask and the Wind Waker, and the claw shots in Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. Personally, I think we could benefit from the hookshot in the sky, as with its sharp front it is perfect for both attaching to objects but also hitting the enemy from a safe distance. Think Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Yes, that would be perfect, just with less violence. Now over to our next candidate that we've been missing, the spinner, or if you prefer, the one thing that can make certain combat situations even more fun. Hitting multiple enemies back to back, a little bit like we did on horseback in Breath of the Wild, but where you cannot be knocked as easily down or stab opponents with other weapons from above. Instead strike them with the edge of the sharp Beyblade, I mean spinner. And since we're on the topic of Twilight Princess, let's stay with it, as it has more interesting items that can also serve as weapons, namely the ball and chain. One of the few instances in Zelda before Breath of the Wild where you claimed the weapon of a defeated mini-boss and then kept it throughout the game, a brilliant tool to smash your foes. Speaking of crushing or blowing them to pieces, bombs, which up to now have been tied to the Sheikah slate that is presumably now gone, or with Princess Zelda down on the ground, that is, if she is still alive. We need a replacement which might tie to a rune of the arm, or will once again be a physical numbered weapon. What do we mean by that? Well, that bombs might again be in a bomb pouch, and just like the bomb arrows in Breath of the Wild, deplete if we overuse them. A good example to bring back here is found in the other Zelda game with bomb arrows, Twilight Princess, where beside the one fired from our bow, we had two types of bombs, regular and piranha-shaped water bombs. And here we get to my final point and frontier, which as of November 2022 still remains to be broken, the depths of Hyrule's many bodies of water, inland and underneath its 4 seas, though in reality they're all part of a great sea. Underwater is probably the greatest argument for bringing back a number of the weapons that we have brought up throughout the last part of this video, as they actually work on the water, unlike most of the other non-sword weapons found in Breath of the Wild. The hookshot/clawshot have been used in the past on the water when combined with the iron boots, which is gear, so a completely different subject for a different video. Though if you don't go for the hookshot, there is an alternative from our own world. The harpoon, and a miniature one, like Ganondorf's design for Monster Maze back in 2020 would fit even better, as it could be used on the water even without iron boots. After all, what is a harpoon but an underwater chained arrow/hookshot blend? Absolutely, and with that said, there's no doubt that the Zelda team, after the weapon blowout in Breath of the Wild, will bring far more weapons than we have listed throughout this video, since in Tears of the Kingdom, as a sequel of combinations, we're likely to find brand new, reinvented/altered existing ones, all returning, and even weapons that we build by combining a number of the above mentioned. That is the great potential, and hence we want to see your ideas in the comment section down below. So if you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell to not miss any of our upcoming Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo and far more videos. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching to the end, and to all our patreon.com/Commonroll patrons, and in particular role producer Charles Shash for all support. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.